Hey all you cool cats and kittens, it's Rick with the Legacy Brew Pub, and today I'm going to bring you State of the Reanimator, Episode 2, End of the Year Review, Electric Boogaloo, The Reanimating Redux. Per my last State video, Modern Horizons 2 had just been released, and a lot of people thought Reanimator was dead in the water. If you're not familiar, I occasionally like to put out a State of the Reanimator video, in which I go over the current makeup of the deck. Reanimator is a deck that I choose to grind with in Legacy. It's my favorite deck, dating back to pre-Gristlebrand days, if you could believe it. As I was saying, Modern Horizons 2 had just been printed, and everyone in the Legacy meta thought that Endurance was going to be the final nail in this Menace's coffin. Well, what the fuck is up? Reanimator. Reanimator is one of the top 3 most played decks in the meta, despite all of the cards printed to set us back. Modern Horizons 2, believe it or not, was released this year, 2021, and shook up the format. During the previous video, I spoke on a few cards from Modern Horizons 2 that would shake up the Legacy format as a whole in our deck specifically. Some of those cards being Endurance, Jothri Voidwalker, and Solitude. While these cards shook up the format a little bit, a few other cards would end up shaking our world a lot of bit. That's right. Ragavan, Murktide Regent, and Urza Saga. Murktide Regent versus Reanimator often leads to an 8/8 on turn 2 or turn 3. If the opponent is in any way skilled with the deck, they'll often have a backup Murktide leading into another Murktide. This quickly outpaces even our biggest creature, Gristlebrand. We do have strategies that we deploy against this, but still an 8/8 on turn 2 with Daze or Force of Will backup is pretty sticky for us. Urza Saga presents a clock to hate piece. This is a new type of interaction for us. When Urza Saga enters the battlefield, it enters with a 2-turn window in which you need to combo off. On its 3rd turn, it will tutor up a hate piece that our opponent has in their main deck. They often have at least one. Games 2 and 3, Urza Saga performs a slightly different function for our opponent. Because of its tutor ability, Saga allows our opponents to diversify their game plan versus us. They're allowed to run more pointed hate out of the sideboard against us. For instance, they can bring in a Tormod's Crypt and a Surgical Extraction in addition to their main board Soul Guide Lantern. In essence, this Saga allows our opponent to pivot where they need to in order to interact with our speed and disruption. The monkey in the room. I think it's fair to say that most people knew Ragavan was pushed, but I do not think most people understood just how pushed the monkey was in Legacy. Let me paint a picture for you. You've won game 1, you've lost game 2. You're now on to game 3 versus your blue-red Delver opponent. Your opponent mulligans down to 5 cards. On the play, you thought seize your opponent, and this is what they reveal. You've seen hands like this a million times. You know what to do. You take away the Surgical. You then pass the turn. Your opponent plays out their land, Ragavan, and then passes. The game then progresses in this fashion. Your opponent has you on a decent clock with the monkey. You're able to get a creature into the graveyard, but just as you're able to draw some reanimation spells to dance around their permission, the game ends. This exact scenario has happened to me several times, including a local 1K event and a 5K event I traveled to. It may seem counterintuitive, but on the opening turn 1, I honestly believe that when you face one of the most powerful hate pieces for your deck, we leave it in and take the Ragavan. This may seem crazy, but each time this has happened, I've lost to taking the sideboard piece. Had I taken the turn 1 Ragavan, both my opponent and I would have been reliant on the top deck, which I hopefully would fare a little bit better against. Blue-Red Delver is very powerful in Legacy right now, and if you're going to play the format, you need to learn how to dance around and play against it. Canister appropriately made the meta call when he understood that he would be facing against predominantly Blue-Red Delver decks in a recent Sunday challenge. While catching the end of his stream, I heard him say that he had indeed faced Blue-Red Delver most of the matchups during the day, including only one other Elves matchup in the semifinals. Canister said that he built the deck around the Blue-Red meta specifically, which influenced this spicy build. The deck shifts ended up looking like this. The deck is strictly black-red with a splash for white in sideboard. There are a total of 9 Thoughtseize effects in the main, which aren't unusual, but we typically run 8. He has taken 3 Chancellor of the Annex out of the main and put him in the side. leaving just one Chancellor of the Annex in the main. I don't think this is quite as sacrilegious as it seems. A lot of people in the Reanimator community are of the mindset that Chancellor of the Annex is too slow and isn't hitting hard enough in the current meta. Archon of Cruelty is definitely a Reanimator mainstay at this point. Originally printed in Modern Horizons 2, this started out as a sideboard card along with Sarah's Emissary and quickly moved into the main board over Ashen Rider. I think there's a certain amount of, fuck it, we're doing 4 in this build, but against the blue-red heavy meta, it does seem to be quite effective. Canister did remark a few times during the stream that playing this version of the deck against blue-red Delvers specifically made it seem easy mode. So, getting back to the current state of the meta, and setting aside blue-red Delver's dominant control in the meta, we can see that Reanimator is well positioned against the rest of the meta. Full disclaimer, I have not kept a statistical analysis of my matches played. This is only my gut feeling. It seems likely that the current meta is tailored towards 2 decks specifically, Blue-Red Delver and Reanimator. All of the decks have a game plan versus early pressure from Delver, and all of the decks have some amount of mainboard or sideboard hate against Reanimator, which effectively means all decks have an answer to early game reanimation targets, and most decks have an answer to graveyard shenanigans in the main board. Barring utility creatures such as Iona and Archetype of Endurance, etc., this selection of cards seem to be our most commonly used sideboard cards currently. Quickly running through them, we have Show and Tell and Echoing Truth, Silence, Serenity, Wear Tear, and Prismatic Ending, Wear Tear, Magus of the Moon, and Shenanigans, Assassin's Trophy, Massacre, Fairy Macabre, and Thoughtseize. Given that there's been so much success for Reanimator, various builds are allowed to shine through. Root Slay has done exceedingly well with his patented Black-Red World Gorger Reanimator combo. Duke 12 has an interesting mono-black plus UC for a show and tell pivot. World 21 is the most recent mono-black Reanimator finish with this mono-black plus Urza Saga passage. And of course, closing it out, this is the GOAT's most recent list posted to MTG Goldfish. Wrapping it up, there are several strategies for Reanimator currently. You can pick and choose what fits your style and skill type the most in order to find the version that nets you the most wins. Reanimator has once again established itself as a format mainstay, despite the hate pieces being continually printed against it. If you're on the fence of whether or not to pick this deck up, I personally think it's a slam dunk. We've unmasked our strategy to the world, and now it's up to our opponents to find a way to deal with it. This deck is not for the faithless at heart, though. You will need to learn how to play effectively versus a wide, diverse meta of hate pieces. At the end of the day, I hope you pick up Reanimator and start your Electric Boogaloo too. I hope you enjoyed my latest State of the Reanimator video. I have a lot of new channel ideas. More content is on the way, modern and EDH specifically. I hope to post new Reanimator videos, including little mini leaks and guides and how-tos. In my last video, I said that my job was allowing me to have more time off, at which point in time they immediately reversed course, and I've had significantly less time off. So I hope I am able to create more content for you. If you've liked it, give me a little comment, tell me what you did or did not like. I'm pretty new at this, but I think I'm doing all right. So yeah, I am happy that you're here, and I hope you have a good day. Take it easy, Kate. Bye.